Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Mayor's Tele-Town Hall call with neighborhood leaders, faith leaders, and ACE alums. We thank you so much for being with us. We still have a few getting on the line right now, so I just wanted to welcome you and let you know that the call would begin momentarily. As we have done with our previous calls, just a reminder for you, you can start putting your questions in while we're waiting to begin. It's press 7 on your dial pad. You'll be connected with our screeners. Our screeners will take your question, put them in the system so that we can see those questions, and we will answer them as we go through this call. Just to let you know, we have a variety of folks on with us today, including Dr. David Hicks with the Jefferson County Department of Health. He is the Deputy Health Officer. So we will have several folks who will be able to provide you important information along with the mayor today, and we will also have information concerning a variety of initiatives and opportunities that are out there. Thank you again. Stand by. We will be starting the call just in a moment as the last few folks get on the line. And once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Mayor Woodfin's Tele-Town Hall with neighborhood association leaders, with faith leaders in our community, and with alumni from the ACE program. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for what you do for our community. My name is Rick Journey. I serve as Director of Communications for Mayor Woodfin's Office of Public Information. I will be your moderator today. We will have an opportunity to answer many questions. We'll also have some questions that we would like to ask you to get a snapshot of where you are in this current situation with the pandemic. I will now turn to Mayor Woodfin to begin our call today.
Good morning to everyone. I want to thank you for spending some time with us this morning on this Tele-Town Hall. As many of you all know, we are in our 6th week of this crisis that so many of you have been affected by. Some of you all have had family members to test, and I know, based on some phone calls I've received, unfortunately, some family members, some of you have either lost a family member or a friend to the coronavirus, and I just want you to know my thoughts and my prayers are with you. And I know it's been wearing on many of us as well. Some of us are in need to see our children and grandchildren, and many of us miss our church, or some of the faith leaders on this call miss your church members. But what you're doing by staying at home is helping, and I can tell you that it's working. Our medical professionals are telling me we're seeing our curve flatten here in Jefferson County, which is great news. This is creating an opportunity for us to beat the coronavirus and allow us to take some measured thinking about what reopening and recovery may look like. Now, let me tell you before the questions begin, today, this Thursday, we still don't know what that looks like, but we are starting to have conversations. So the best news I can tell you is it's very easy and direct. Stay at home. We've created some resources for you at your home, and we'll share more about that later. Now, you all know what we do on these calls, and that is we answer questions. So I'm going to stop talking and kick it back to Rick Journey. But before I do, I want to remind you again, please continue to be safe. Neighborhood leaders, faith leaders, please encourage your residents and those who are part of your congregation to remain at home. We're expecting some inclement weather this afternoon, so I'm glad we're actually taking this call now. And I know some of you all don't play about being on the phone in the rain, so let's turn it back over to Rick Journey now. Before we turn it back over to Rick, actually, Jimmy Coleman, president of the Citizens Advisory Board, is on the phone, and as always, if he wants to share something with us, now would be a great time too, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. thank you again for your leadership. We just want to thank the 99 neighborhood officers and their residents for their staying at home, and the CAB officers. We just like to thank them for getting the word out also. We just would like for everyone just to stay safe, and we'll start CAB meeting up as soon as the mayor says, it's all clear, and we don't want to get anyone in any trouble. So we just want to try to stay safe, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you, and thank you for letting Rick moderate this event that we're having, and I just like to thank everyone in the city of Birmingham that we're trying to be safe. And I know it's a little hard on some people, but we just need to just try to stay safe. And I want to thank you again, Mr. Mayor, and thanking you for letting us just come on and just, let everyone know to stay safe. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Rick?
Yes, sir, Mayor. We'll start off with our first question from our callers. This question concerns the stay-at-home order. Remember, there were two stay-at-home orders. There's the shelter-in-place ordinance that the mayor recommended and was passed by the council that ends on the 30th. There's also the governor's stay-at-home order, which ends on the 30th at this time, too. The question is, when will the mayor end the stay-at-home order?
As of today, many of you all know our current shelter-in-place order ends April 30th. But what I can tell you, there has not been a decision made to extend it or not extend it. And that is because we're still gathering and receiving information from the health department. I continue to talk to Dr. Mark Wilson. On this call is Dr. Hicks, who's with the Jefferson County Health Department. And so at a certain point, I'll allow him to speak if he would like to address this as well. But I want to add something. I'm calling it the GATE. That's G-A-T-E. I think there are three things we need to talk about and understand and assess and know how it looks before we talk about whether to extend or not to extend. And that is how many symptoms we have in our city, how many cases we have in our county, as well as what's actually happening with our hospitals. The one I'm most encouraged about is our hospitals. There has seemed to be a not necessarily a drop-off, but we can't say not an increase of those who had needed to be admitted and or be on a ventilator. So that's really encouraging. But we don't have the necessary information we need today around symptoms and cases to adequately assess should we extend or not extend beyond April 30th. And so in the ideal world, I know that is a few days away, but as we continue to assess, I want to give the community as much runway as possible in sharing information, will we extend or not. But as of today, I cannot answer that question.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next question, this person says, I wear a mask, but so many others don't, especially at Walmart. Should we consider a no mask, no entry policy? Same with people touching produce in stores.
I can't speak to the produce. I'll leave that to the actual health department and or the owner of that store. But I will speak directly to the face covering. And I want you all to kind of embrace the language face cover, because face cover doesn't necessarily mean an N95 mask or a mask, period. It can be a bandana. It can be any form of a face covering. Let me answer the question. The answer is yes. We should consider, if you leave your home, wearing some form of a face cover. I think what I'm encouraged by is at least half the people I see out are voluntarily wearing some form of a face cover. But I think it would be really, really wise for us as a community to move towards enforcing that. And I think most people will embrace that enforcement. Because when we think about it, if you can't be 6 feet away from someone, then the next best thing is a face covering, because whether it's talking, laughing, singing, coughing, sneezing, you want to make sure whatever particles are coming out of your lungs don't end up on the next person. So I think it's very wise to wear a form of a face cover. Please remember this as well. The CDC has already made a recommendation to all Americans that if you leave your home, you should be wearing some form of a face cover. But I think it would probably be smart for us to move towards enforcing that at a certain point.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Our next question, what reinforcement measures does the city plan to take for businesses who are operating illegally and those not practicing proper social distancing?
So right now, the concern we've had around this question is big box stores, such as the Walmarts and the grocery stores and the home improvement stores. I think what we've seen is we've continued to talk with and partner with the Jefferson County Health Department. The Health Department actually has staff on hand that is responsible for going out and assessing who's in compliance versus who's in violation of the current ordinance. And they then rely on the municipality law enforcement arm within whatever city that is in the county, and they have given warnings, they have given out violations, and they have even told some people will shut you down if you do it again. So that's already in place, that's happening, and the city is a continued partner as it relates to our police supporting the health department from an enforcement standpoint.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We're pulling up our next question. Stand by one moment. This question deals with services. Is there a timeline or a plan to reinstate normal recycling pickup?
As of today, there is not a timeline. I would hope when some things move back to normalcy. I'm not sure how that looks in May and or June, but we will start the recycling program back. When it starts back, again, I'm not even sure how that's going to look, but I can commit to you we will start our recycling program back for the entire city.
Our next question, where will businesses need to go to receive a new business license?
They can do it online, birminghamal.gov, and they can also come into City Hall on the first floor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I guess that's important for us to remind folks who may have forgotten or not realized City Hall, while some staff are now teleworking, City Hall's offices are still open to the public. We have put together initiatives to promote social distancing, to protect everyone, to clean the facilities, to protect both the residents and the employees, but City Hall is still open for services as well. Stand by as we get to our next question. This is a question, is it okay to have service technicians come into my home as long as we follow social distancing?
Yes. Yes, it is.
So here's our next question, and this may be one that we want to direct to Dr. Hicks. The last time we were on the call, I asked about the number of patients being broken down by zip code. Will we receive that information? Also, a couple of other questions on that. Additional concern about reopening the city, and if we see crowds gathering at house parties, who do we report it to?
All right.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Hicks from the Health Department. As far as the data by zip code, this is actually prohibited by HIPAA privacy laws to release that information. I certainly understand that there's been places around the country that have released those statistics, but we've looked at the privacy laws, and that is actually prohibited. That anything that's any data that's at a level that's below the state level is considered protected health information, and there's clear laws about that. Now, what we've been doing is working with the Attorney General's office to figure out what can we legally release and not violate privacy laws, because what happens is, I'll give you an example, if we said that there was 2 deaths in this zip code, it's quite possible that someone can identify who that is. We've actually got a report where there was a death threat to someone who was suspected of having COVID-19. So we're taking this very seriously. We understand we have to also balance this by people wanting to know, is it affecting my community? And we know that we have reports in the African-American community with higher rates of hospitalization and deaths. So we are actively behind the scenes looking at all of our options, because Dr. Wilson wants to be able to release as much as he can so you know what's happening. It may come in the form of having, say, heat maps where you can see generally where the disease is concentrated at without actually having it necessarily by zip code. So hopefully soon we'll have something to display and show.
Thank you, Dr. Hicks. Mayor, I'll direct the second part of that question was directed to what if somebody observes a resident having a house party, what should they do?
Call the precinct, whatever side of town you're on, north, south, east, or west. Call the precinct, and we will gladly be in a position to probably ask more questions so we can understand what's actually happening in that home. There's a balance here of the privacy of someone's home versus violating the ordinance and what the ordinance calls for around how many people can gather, et cetera. So I think it would be in the best position for that person to call the precinct and try to give more detail if you're wanting the police to actually respond.
Mayor, before we go to our next question from our callers, I would like to ask our first poll question. Anyone who has been on this call in the past, you know that we try to get a snapshot of the situation that you're facing at this time and get your opinion on a variety of issues. So our first question for you is, should the city of Birmingham open on May 1st? Press 1 for no, not at all. Press 2 for yes, all the way. Press 3 for yes, but slowly. Once again, the question, should the city of Birmingham open on May 1st? Press 1 for no, not at all. Press 2 for yes, all the way. Press 3 for yes, but slowly. You'll have about 3 minutes to answer that question. I will remind you before we close this out, but the poll is open, so you can respond to that as soon as possible. Let me ask another question for the mayor from our callers while you answer your poll question. Mayor, can you summarize Birmingham Strong?
Yeah, the short version, and I want to encourage you, while I'm talking about this, whether on your cell phone or whatever device you have in front of you, please actually visit bhamstrong.com. Again, you can pull it up, bhamstrong.com. But the short version is it's a public-private partnership with the mission to build, link, and coordinate resources to strengthen our city's response and community response to the COVID-19. So on one hand, the private sector has put in a lot of money to be a bridge and offer loans to businesses to make sure they can stay afloat due to having to close because of the COVID-19 or lay off their hourly workers. The other part is we know a lot of small business owners are either minority, black-owned, women-owned, and don't have the traditional relationship, or mom and pop, and don't have the traditional relationship with one of the banks. Well, if they want to participate in the Payroll Protection Program, which is the federal government's program to give money to these businesses, then we partner with Hope Credit Union as well as Goldman Sachs to make sure for those who don't have a traditional relationship with the lender that they can engage Goldman Sachs and at least be in a competitive position to apply for those federal dollars. The third thing, and it's really important, is we've created a process where we wanted to do health screenings in 14 public housing communities, and we wanted to create a neighbor-to-neighbor food assistance program, and we wanted to create a call center / switchboard to call in for folks to know that testing is available, and then be in a position to offer transportation from point A to B for those who don't have it to be able to get tested. That's the short version.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we go to our next question, I would like to call on Tracy Bennett. She's the Deputy Commissioner of the Office of State and of Sports and Entertainment. Ms. Bennett is on the line. She can discuss wellness and health initiatives as well, and wellness and health opportunities that are out there. Ms. Bennett, good morning to you.
Good morning, everyone. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people find themselves at home more often than normal. And so the city has created what is called the Stay-at-Home Family Activity Guide. It is 22 pages of information for multiple age groups. It's elementary age youth, teens and tweens, adults, and seniors. And for each age group, It contains recommended activities in the categories of cultural arts, technology, education, athletics and recreation, and health and wellness. It also includes a sample schedule and links to resources for each of those age groups. There's resources such as exercise videos, education resources, free professional development, and free music, just to name a few. And we have noticed that several people have been interested in learning about ways to give back. So if you visit the guide, you'll find recommendations for children to give back on page 7 of the guide, and for adults, you can visit page 18 of the guide. And during this time, a lot of people may not quite know how to cope or how to discuss what's going on with children or for people that you're caring for. So we have included tips for caregivers during the pandemic, and that can also be found on page 13. The entire guide can be found at www.birminghamal.gov/stay-at-home. Again, that's birminghamal.gov/stay-at-home. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Bennett, for that information. We'll remind folks of that website again as the call continues on. Our next question from our callers, Mayor, is schools are closed, but many of our children have things in lockers. Is there a plan in place for them to get the items out of their lockers?
I'm unaware if there's a plan in place for children to get things out of their lockers. This is what I will say. I think that can be arranged by that parent simply reaching out to that school principal. I am more than confident to know that principals have shared a number for them to be reached by, or email address for them to be reached by, and simply just coordinate that with that principal. But I'm confident that child's things can be picked up.
Thank you, Mayor. The current poll question we have, and I'll ask it one more time, give you 15 seconds to respond if you have not yet. That question is, should the city of Birmingham open on May 1st? Press 1 for no, not at all. Press 2 for yes, all the way. Press 3 for yes, but slowly. You have 15 seconds to answer that. We will close that poll question out and ask another momentarily. Mayor, the next question from our callers, how can neighborhood leaders assist those in the community with FEMA or other services?
I think if you wanted to volunteer, if residents are wanting to volunteer their time, there are 2 places I recommend. Well, 3 actually. One is Be Ham Strong. There's something on that site for you to be able to participate in and assist and help folks. 2 is 211. That's dealing with United Way. And 3, you already know this answer, and that is probably engaging your faith-based leader, your pastor or your bishop or anything of that nature where you can engage in some of the services they're already providing, and they've already created a vehicle and a venue to offer services to the community.
Mayor, our next question deals with elections. Do you know how local and state elections will be addressed this year?
The state elections have already been addressed in the sense that I think from the election, if my math is correct, earlier March, there was supposed to be a runoff 6 weeks later. However, that's been postponed to this summer, so that's already been decided. As it relates, I'm unaware of any local elections, so there are no local elections this spring or summer.
City of Birmingham elections.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
City of Birmingham elections are not until August of 2021.
And I have noticed that there have been conversations with other cities within the state, and those conversations continue to go on of what that next step is.
So there are other municipal elections in the state of Alabama and in the county of Jefferson, which include the city of Hoover, for example. But that doesn't relate to the city of Birmingham.
So let me ask you this question. It's similar to what we heard earlier. Customers refuse to practice social distancing. What can be done to encourage them to listen?
I think the biggest thing, everybody, is this: we're gonna police ourselves first. So number one thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take the CDC's guidelines, and when we walk out of our homes, if we walk into a public place, be it City Hall, a grocery store, a bank, whatever it is, for the current things that are open, we're going to wear some type of face covering. I think the conversation Dr. Hicks and Dr. Sorry, I can't think of his name, Dr. Williford and others I look forward to having with them at the health department is this. We're going to have to shift our conversation to these business owners to simply say this. For the ones that are currently open, you're going to have to police who can come into your store. And I think that's going to, if some of the onus is put on the actual business owner or the manager of whoever's operating an existing establishment that's currently open, that's been deemed essential, then I think that's the best way to enforce things.
Mayor, our next question is, it's kind of multiple parts, and I'll go through all of this. How is the economy of Birmingham being affected by COVID-19? Does the city have financial resources available for the pandemic and for other situations like this? And then I got a second part of that question.
All right, let's take each part. I think the first part is how is the economy of Birmingham being affected by the COVID? We're being hit pretty hard. The city of Birmingham collects revenue in the following ways: the business license being 1, sales tax being 2, occupational tax being 3, use tax, that's USE, being 4, permits and fees being 5, ad valorem, property tax being 6, and there are a few other ways. Well, when we close all these businesses, when the county closed these businesses down, then we got hit a little bit in use tax, we got hit a lot in sales tax, and we got hit a lot in occupational tax. The other tax I forgot to mention for revenue is lodging taxes. Well, when we don't have any events in our cities, there are less people staying at hotels. So we've taken a hit on sales tax, use tax, lodging tax, and occupational taxes. 4 of those 7 ways we receive revenue have been hit by the COVID-19. Those 4 ways, and then when you add business license, probably makes up about 80 cents of every dollar that comes into the city of Birmingham. So, March may be okay because it was only 2 weeks, but we've probably taken a significant hit in the month of April. And we won't know the numbers of how hard we were hit in April until the end of May. And so I'd be better answer the actual tangible number for how hard we were hit in April and May. The other part of the question says, does the city have financial resources available for pandemics? It's a very interesting question, but the short answer is no. We have received some. We've borrowed against ourselves to address some of the COVID-19 issues, and we're appreciative of the federal government allowing us to be reimbursed for things we have to spend on the pandemic. The other part of the question is, how are other programs such as Birmingham Promise, World Games being affected by the COVID? Well, they're being affected in a very big way. World Games, as you know, has been moved back in an entire additional 365 days. So it's been moved to, instead of 2021, it's been moved to 2022. In addition to that, the Birmingham Promise students were working. They were going to school and working. They were making $15 an hour, and they were working at least 16 hours a week. Because of the COVID-19 and school closing, as well as some of those businesses moving to work from home, those young people aren't able to participate in the program. Now, the fundraising has taken a hit as well on the scholarship side. The good news I can tell you is we'll still be able to cover for the May 2020 graduates to be able to attend state 2-year and 4-year public universities with tuition covered.
Thank you, Mayor. This next question, actually, before we ask our next question, let's put our next poll question in. Our next poll question for you to respond to, stand by, is, are you currently wearing face coverings when you leave your home? Are you currently wearing face coverings when you leave your home? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. We have 3 minutes to answer that question. Again, are you currently wearing face coverings when you leave your home? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. You'll have 2 to 3 minutes to respond to this before we close this question out. I will remind you before we close it. Our next question is for our Deputy Health Officer, Dr. David Hicks. Dr. Hicks, this caller asked, will the health department expand testing to accommodate testing of 50% of the Jefferson County population? So I think there is a lot of questions about how much testing can be done in the coming weeks.
Sure, great question. Right now, we've only tested about 1.4% of the county's population, which is definitely wholly inadequate. The health department has had a lack of the ability to do testing ourselves, and we've had to rely on our partners. When testing first appeared in the county, it was from private ventures that we had no control over, and we have not been able to procure any expanded access to testing until kind of recently. In the past week, there's been some things that have been promising. So we've helped support that UAB testing site, which is in downtown Birmingham, and there's plans to mobilize that effort into certain communities. In fact, hopefully, we're planning on next week. Hopefully, we're going to be up in the Centerpoint area, working with the UAB to test at a church there, because we understand that the Centerpoint area is a hot spot, but there's certainly other areas, certainly in Birmingham, that need to get testing. One of the target areas we're looking at is certainly towards the western part of Birmingham. And we're just trying to leverage the resources that the federally qualified health centers have, and UAB and others. One of the things that we're also exploring to try to expand testing capacity is the CDC within this past week has kind of sanctioned the ability to do self-collection. So before we've had this limitation with personal protective equipment, which limited our ability to do facilitate widespread testing. And now there's a method to do self-collection. So as long as we have the kits, then someone can swab themselves. That's what's happening at this Walmart up in Adamsville. And so we're behind the scenes looking to try to expand. The 50% mark would be wonderful if that was the case. But we've had this issue with either having limitations with PPE or test kits. More labs are coming online, and so you should see certainly some expansion happening. And next week, hopefully, you'll see some more sites popping up. We do know that there are several sites that's already been live, that's from the federally qualified health centers and others. So hopefully that answers the question. But we definitely need a lot more testing in the community.
Thank you, Dr. Hicks. There was one person to clarify, so I wanted to throw this out. Someone just asked, did you say that Centerpoint was a hot spot for COVID-19? I just want to clarify.
Yes, yes, I did say that. So this is something that UAB Health Systems reported maybe 2 weeks or so ago, I would say. And so that's based on the UAB testing. So that's why that's a target site from what UAB had kind of said in the public domain.
Thank you, Dr. Hicks. Our next question deals with these calls, and this is someone who's been on multiple of these calls, mayors. We've taken these surveys on the calls before. Is it possible to share the results? They also say you're doing a great job in making us proud.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Y'all make me proud as well. I think a lot of people on this phone are leaders in your own right. Your neighborhood, your church, and people are listening to you all. People are following you. The role you're taking in communicating, telling people to take this seriously, I think there's no distance between you all and me, but people are following you as well. So thank each of you all for what you're doing.
With that, I would like to turn, I think this is a good moment for us to turn to our Deputy Director of the Office of Peace and Policy, Jasmine Story. Ms. Story joins us on the line right now to talk a little bit about the initiatives that we have, some of the things that we are doing in place to work with community as well. Ms. Story, good morning to you.
Good morning, Rick. Thank you, everyone. We would like to invite you to share your thoughts, your prayers, your words of hope for the city of Birmingham with us so that we can share them with the larger community. So please consider emailing us those prayers, your words of hope, to the following email address, prayers@birminghamal.gov. We will share your uplifting words on a site that will be shared with the city. If you would like to engage with us on social media, please share a photo of you, your loved ones, with a candle or a sign of hope with the hashtag prayers, the number 4, BHM, prayers for BHAM. So one more time, the email address to send your prayers or your words of hope is prayers@birminghamal.gov, and the hashtag to share your photos of uplifting signs, candles, the hashtag is prayers, the number 4, BHM. That's prayers for BHAM. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. It's so good to talk to you. I appreciate that.
Hey, everybody, I just realized I didn't answer the first part of the question. The answer is yes, Rick. Well, first of all, thank you, Ms. Story. But yes, Rick released the results of the poll question.
Yes, and what we will do for this call is, as near the end of this call, after we finish the last question, we will tell you how you responded on these 3 questions. We will also post this when we put it on birminghamal.gov/coronavirus. Where you can listen to the playback of these calls. We will also put that additional information in there where you can look at not just today's, but we will pull together all the research so we can put that per every call that we have done over this period of time. So certainly we are happy to share that with you. I'm going to remind folks that we're ending the current question. You have 15 seconds if you have not responded to it. Are you currently wearing face coverings when you leave your home? Press 1 for yes. Press 2 for no. I'll give you another 15 seconds, and then we will close this one out. This is another question for Dr. Hicks. This is a clergy member. As a clergy member, I reached out to receive testing, but because I didn't have symptoms, I was not tested by the UAB Center. Will there be some plans to consider clergy as essential workers so that we can be tested before we interact with the public? Dr. Hicks, do you have a position on that today?
Well, so with the current CDC guidelines and guidance from the State Health Department has been to test symptomatic persons only. I believe that that's partially due to the limited testing resources, and so until the CDC guidance changes, that is, I think, the same position that we've been going by, and we just kind of piggyback what the CDC and the State Health Department says. I do think that there's a case to be made for certain groups. I haven't heard clergy being included in that, but I'm concerned particularly about our first responders who are right on the front lines. And then I think certainly our healthcare workers, because the rates of COVID-19 positivity is very high in healthcare workers. And so, with all due respect to our clergy members, I think that there are other groups that perhaps could be at a higher risk threshold that may warrant more universal type testing before clergy members. But
thank you, Dr. Hicks. Moving to our next question, stand by. I just closed it out accidentally, so I've got to get back to it. Just one moment. The question is, how will the serious decline in city tax revenue impact city services, and how will it specifically impact the plan to demolition Banks High School?
Well, I'll start backwards. Banks High School, that money has already been allocated, so it's not going to affect the continuation of that. Just a short progress report. The contract that deals with hiring the organization, a firm to abate the building as it relates to asbestos, et cetera, is in the legal department now, so that is moving forward.
The second
part of that question dealt with how serious decline in tax revenues impacts city services overall. Everybody, the truth is we're not in a position to answer that now. We can scenario everything we can, but the new budget is supposed to start July 1. The budget is based on projections. Those projections are pretty hard to predict right now because we're in the middle of this crisis. So I am unable to answer that question because we're still in the wait-and-see approach.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we go to our next question from callers, I'm going to open up our next poll question. And as we said, as the mayor said earlier, we will share this information with you at the end of this call. We'll read out what the findings were. Also, we'll put this up on birminghamal.gov/coronavirus along with the audio of this call. The next question, do you have a family member that has experienced job or business loss during this crisis? Do you have a family member that has experienced job or business loss during this crisis? Press 1 for no. Press 2 for no, but their hours have been cut. And press 3 for yes, someone lost their job or business. Once again, do you have a family member that has experienced job or business loss during this crisis? Press 1 for no. Press 2 for no, but their hours have been cut. And press 3 for yes, someone has lost their job or business. We will keep this open for about 3 minutes. I will remind you before we close this out. Our next question, stand by one moment while we get to another question. We have several questions, Mayor, and I'm just going to kind of group these together, asking about renewing driver's licenses, specifically for the Star ID driver's license because DMV is closed, also for renewals of tags, and other items along those lines because the courthouse is closed. I want to acknowledge that because we do have a number of questions about that.
So yes, the city of Birmingham City Hall is open, but the county is not. I do want you all to know, I think today is Thursday, Tuesday, 2 days ago, I spoke with the president of the Jefferson County Commission, which is Jimmy Stevens. I think and along with his colleagues, they have interest in phasing some things back in the month of May as it relates to county services, which include the ability to do tag issues and license issues, et cetera. They're still flushing that out. I will let him know that this is a concern from a lot of Birmingham citizens and see where they are. And I will encourage him to look at our model here of how we kept City Hall open but safe, and maybe the county should move to the same thing so your services can be provided for you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to combine a couple of other questions. One specifically from Bush Hills, sidewalks on Bush Boulevard need to have repairs. And secondly, are there people in place to maintain, this is another person asking a question, are there people in place to maintain the city roadways during this time?
So on the sidewalk question, please take this note down. I'm going to give you an email address. It's James, James, Fowler, Fowler, at birminghamal.gov. Again, that's james.fowler at birminghamal.gov. Please communicate and share what block are you referring to with that sidewalk repair, and we, at a minimum, can get someone to assess what's going on. As it relates to the streets being paved, that's still happening. Right now, there's about, I want to say, close to $3.9 million worth of streets being paved across the city right now in all 9 districts.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, please discuss proper disposal of face masks and gloves. I think this is in reference to we're seeing a lot of folks who are just littering in parking lots and such.
Well, the actual disposal belongs in the trash can. But if you're asking how to actually take it off or remove it, I'll leave that to Dr. Hicks because I'm not necessarily with the background on the proper way to take it off of you. Dr. Hicks, I think they're referring more to how to remove it off your own, how to remove both gloves off your own hands.
Yeah, so I guess for the face mask part, because you don't want to touch the actual mask that may have gotten germs from the outside and then touch your eyes, ears, face, and so I think removing just the part that's covering the ear, and do not touch the part that's actually the other parts, is the best way to remove it. Now with the gloves, you want to kind of slide your finger up underneath the glove, not on the actual outer surface of it, and then flip it up over your fingers and take that off, and then you're going to kind of repeat that technique for the other glove. So it's just the whole point is any part that is touching the outside, an outside surface, you don't need to directly touch that in any way. But I 100% agree with the mayor that put everything in the trash can, not on the ground.
Thank you, Dr. Hicks. Yes, I think we all have seen the frustration of people who have dropped the gloves on the ground in the last in the last few days, in the last few weeks. Mayor, this next question: will lots be cut in South Titusville during this time?
All right, everybody. Grass cutting. We still have teams out but I can tell you they have not been on schedule based on the reduced schedule and number of days our public works employees have worked. You should also know that one of the crews on the west and southwest side of town had to be taken out due to some issues, so they're not necessarily on schedule. As many of you all know, we have over 20,000 vacant lots in our city, and so being in a position to address them during this time under this healthcare crisis hasn't been deemed a priority, but we are trying to strike a balance. I know many of you all worry about rodents when grass is too high for your home next door. I will tell you something on this phone. If it's taking us too long, don't hesitate to get with your neighbors and y'all get a bunch of lawnmowers and go out there and cut that lot. Now, if y'all tell anybody I said that, I'm going to look at y'all sideways.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to point out, we are up against our time right now on this call. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. But I do have a couple of things I want to do. I want to wrap up this current poll question we have. I'm going to ask it one more time, and then we'll close it out. The current question is, do you have a family member that has experienced job or business loss during this crisis? Press 1 for no. Press 2 for no, but their hours have been cut. And press 3 for yes, someone lost their job or business. I'll give you another 15 seconds to do that. And with that, because we are coming up on our time, I believe we can get a couple more questions in. We'll do 2 more questions here. What steps are being taken to promote census participation amongst residents in the city of Birmingham?
All right. I'm going to allow one of my team members, Cedric Sparks, Chief of Staff of the City of Birmingham, to answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there are a few efforts. Our Department of Planning, Engineering, and Permits are specifically staffed up to ensure that we're engaged with our residents and our federal and local partners to ensure that we're doing effective tracking, as well as our Office of Public Information, who's working closely with that office and our federal partners to ensure that we disseminate that information. We've been working closely with quality counts and several of our local local service providers to ensure that we're dispatched throughout the community. So if there's a specific area of interest the caller has, feel free to contact our Office of Public Information and we can share with you what the current city efforts are. But we've been very, very engaged, even in the midst of this pandemic, to ensure that citizens are aware that the census is important and we need for their voice and their participation to matter.
And Chief Sparks, I will follow up with, since I serve as Director of Communications in the Office of Public Information, you can call me. My number is 205-254-2368. That's 254-2368. Or you can email us, and several members of OPI will receive it. That email is OPI, that's Office Public Information, OPI at birminghamal.gov. We will be happy to do whatever we can to assist you in getting the word out and providing you with, arming you with information as well. With that, Mayor, I'm going to ask one more. This is community specific, but I think this is also citywide. This caller, this will be our last question. Riley is in need of patrols to address loitering of people without masks. What can be done?
Tell you what I'll do. I'll take a ride in that neighborhood and check that out myself.
Okay, with that, Mayor, like I said, we are up against time, and we do want to be respectful of people's time. Let me ask you this question. Would you like me to read the poll results right now, or would you like to provide final comments, and then I read them afterwards? What's best?
You provide the poll.
Yes, sir. I'm going to, just one moment, and we will go into this, and we will provide the question. So our first question on this call today was, should the city of Birmingham open on May 1st? 68% of you said no, not at all. 2% said yes all the way, and 29% said yes, but slowly. So again, 66% or 68% said no, not at all. 29% said yes, but slowly. Our next question we asked of you today is, are you currently wearing face coverings when you leave your home? 84% say yes, 16% say no. So 84% of you answer that you are wearing face coverings when you leave the home. And our final question today is, do you have a family member that has experienced job or business loss during this crisis? 40% of you say, yes, someone lost their job or business in your family during this crisis. and 36% said no, and 23% say they haven't lost their job or business, but their hours have been cut. So 40% said yes, someone has lost their job or business during this crisis. A reminder that we will put these poll results up on birminghamal.gov/coronavirus. We will also post the audio from this recording, like we do with all of our Tele-Town halls, on birminghamal.gov/coronavirus. And one other reminder before the mayor provides closing comments, that we will be you can still ask questions. If you have not had a question answered, you can still press 7 after the call is over with, and you can record your question with us so that we can have that, and we will see what ways on large numbers of very similar questions, how we can respond and how we can provide more detail on that. With that, I would like to turn once again to the mayor for some closing comments.
As always, thank each of you all on this call. Thanks to Dr. Hicks with the Jefferson County Health Department. Thanks to the President and the Mayor of North Birmingham, Mr. Jimmy Coleman, for his leadership of the CAB. To all the neighborhood leaders on this call, to all the faith leaders on this call, to all the graduates of ACE, as well as everyone else on this call, please continue to be safe. We are still under an ordinance that is in effect. Stay at home. Watch crowds at some of these big box stores, and continue to encourage those in your network to stay at home. I think the more we do in April, then as we start to transition, not knowing how that looks, the more we can say we flatten this curve and save lives. So thank each of you. Continue to be safe.
Thank you, Mayor, and that concludes this call. Just a reminder once again, information on this call will be provided at birminghamal.gov/coronavirus. That includes the audio recording. It'll be posted a little bit later on this morning into the afternoon. We will also have the poll results, and we will do our best to get the poll results from previous calls posted as soon as possible in the coming hours today. If you would like to get more information about stay-at-home activities, birminghamal.gov/stay-at-home, all one word. You can go there to learn more about activities and ways you can support your family during this time in this stay-at-home situation. We want to thank everybody for what you do in our community, in our city, and we want to thank you all for the time that you have taken today. Have a wonderful day.